Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. A big show for you tonight. More breaking news on the anthem controversy. The commissioner of the NFL facing the press today on his league's decision on how to settle the firestorm following a two-day meeting with players and owners. You're going to hear from Roger Goodell ahead. But first, Attorney General Jeff Sessions back on the hot seat today in the Senate, fielding questions on the firing of James Comey, the Trump campaign's contacts with Russians, and more. He had some testy exchanges with Democrats on the Judiciary Committee, particularly Al Franken. You'll see that in a moment. But the Attorney General started out defending President Trump's decision to oust his first FBI director, tying it to Comey's mishandling of Clinton's email investigation.
I don't think it's been fully understood the significance of the error that Mr. Comey made on the Clinton matter. I don't think I've heard of a situation in which a major case in which the Department of Justice prosecutors were involved in an investigation, that the investigative agency announces the closure of the investigation. He said he thought he did the right thing and would do it again. We were concerned that he reaffirmed that he would do it again. So I think that was a basis that called for a fresh start at the FBI.
Sessions rebuffed repeated requests from Democrats like Dianne Feinstein to detail his private conversations with the president on Comey.
What exactly did President Trump tell you was his reason for firing Director Comey? Did the president ever mention to you his concern about lifting the cloud on the Russia investigation?
Senator Feinstein, that calls for a communication that I've had with the president, and I believe it remains confidential.
But you don't deny that there was a communication?
I do not confirm or deny the existence of any communication between the president that I consider to be confidential.
All right, Mr. Gutfeld, we'll begin with you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So what do you make of this exchange? Yes, he's looking less piquant, less piquant.
I'm just slightly sick. Talk about a hot seat.
Oh.
Anyway. I get nothing out of these hearings. Absolutely nothing, because you know how it's going to go. They keep asking the same questions. They're trying to find the bombshell. It's like a political version of the carnival dunk tank. They all get up there and they're trying to hit Sessions and knock him down. And you know it's going nowhere. They're all grandstanding because a lot of them want to, they're either going to run for re-election. So the hearing is often their audition. It's like America's Got Talent, but without talent and with toupees. As for Comey, he's like a state capital all over the map.
Oh.
All right. Well, that was certainly worth the two-day wait.
Hey, look, I tried.
You did.
I don't even know who you are.
Exactly.
I see two of you, Kimberly.
Lucky you. Lucky you. I got to tell you. What a dream. All right. So, Dana, today you were covering this as it was ongoing during the daily briefing. And what's your takeaway from how Sessions did? And do you think he was well prepared for it? And kind of some things that he stated, I think, that can give us a tell of what's happening.
Well, this was a general oversight hearing. So all of the cabinet secretaries that serve in the executive branch will eventually have to show up and go through the motions, really, because there's no answers really given. They're not going to be able to out the Attorney General. He was a member of the Senate for a long time. He's a practiced attorney. So all of his answers were certainly practiced in a way, but also he was super careful. One of the things he kept doing when they were asking him about Russia was and also in that piece with Dianne Feinstein that we just showed, is he was suggesting that there is executive privilege on conversations between him and the president. That is true, but executive privilege has not been invoked by the president on this, and that's why I saw the senators getting frustrated, and you didn't get a lot out of it. The one thing I think that he does do in this hearing is he continues to do something that is actually quite brave for the executive branch to do, which is to say, for example, on DACA, the Dreamers. You know what? It was illegally done, so now we're asking Congress to fix it. We're going to faithfully execute the law, but you guys have to pass a law. You can't just do this in the executive branch. It doesn't hold, so knock yourselves out. And I thought that was useful, and that happens over and over again on health care as well.
Okay, but overall you felt that he did a good job?
I think that there's nothing out of this that is a big headline tomorrow.
Okay, so usually
Yeah,
that's a
usually
win.
a win.
That's a win. We're like, wait a second, wait for the tweet. Okay, Jesse, what did you make of this in terms of the the questioning of the panel of Jeff Sessions, and do you think that he has pleased the president with his responses?
Yes, I'm sure that President Trump's very pleased. I thought the best part of the hearing was when a senator accidentally spilled Dr. Pepper on Senator Ted Cruz. For me, that was the highlight. The rest of the hearing was Groundhog Day. This whole thing, I think, happened a couple months ago. I think they just did part 2.
Yep.
The only other thing I came out of it basically was the Democrats still have no agenda. They're still obsessed with Russia. They're like 9/11 truthers. Good luck running on that in 2018. It reaffirmed the fact that Comey hatched an escape plan for Hillary Clinton and wrote an exonerating letter months before he even interviewed her. Then when his boss, Lynch, had the secret meeting with Slick Willie, he usurped her authority, made the announcement, let Hillary escape, then said he'd do it all over again if he had the chance. Then when he got canned, he illegally leaked. So Comey didn't come out looking too good this time. The only other thing that I think kind of leaked out of this hearing today, which was very, very interesting, the Obama FBI knew that crooked Russians were funneling dirty money and bribing American energy officials and funneling money to the Clinton Foundation right before Hillary Clinton's State Department approved this uranium deal. And she signed off on the deal. Holder signed off on the deal, where the Justice Department under Obama had this smoking gun, sat on it, didn't do anything. You know who was leading the investigation of this crooked uranium deal? Comey and Mueller. So it all comes back full circle. And when Senator Grassley asked about it, Sessions said, you know what? We're not going to comment on any ongoing investigations, which leads me to believe that the Justice Department might actually be investigating dirty money flowing into the Clinton Foundation.
Aha. Juan, do you concur with Jesse?
I don't know. I mean, to me, if it's true, they can look into it. I don't know that it's anything of substance. The question is what happened, and we'll find out. What interested me today was a number of exchanges. I thought the exchange with Al Franken was just hilarious. I mean, here he is going back and forth with Franken.
Can I play it for you?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, fantastic. Good job, Juan. Let's play more from Sessions' testimony today. Juan wants to hear it, and here's his fiery exchange with Senator Al Franken.
The goalpost has been moved. First it was, I did not have communications with Russians, which was not true. Then it was, I never met with any Russians to discuss any political campaign. Now it's, I did not discuss interference in the campaign.
I conducted no improper discussions with Russians at any time regarding a campaign or any other item facing this country. Mr. Chairman, I don't have to sit in here and listen to his
You're the one who
charges
testified
without having a chance to respond. Give me a break. The lead-in to your question was very, very troubling.
Okay, so obviously some contention and tough moments between them here too. But you thought it was hysterical.
That was interesting because that's the way I feel sitting here some days. I don't have to listen to this, but
Feeling is mutual.
I know.
You do for an hour.
But so it was interesting because I think the heart and soul of it was that you have the senators treating the Attorney General as if he is a target of interest in the Russia investigation. Of course, he's recused himself and angered President Trump, who, by the way, continues to say, where's the Justice Department in terms of looking into Comey, for example. He wants more action from Justice Department to this day. Today, he's tweeting about it. But then you get a situation where Pat Leahy follows up on Franken. It's like, tag team wrestling. And Leahy is like, have you met with Robert Mueller, the special counsel? And he says, well, maybe you should ask Mueller, not me. He says, no, I'm asking you, buddy. I'm asking you. To which point, then, Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut gets involved. And finally, we understand that there's been no contact, even with regard to setting up a meeting between between Mueller and Sessions. So it's this kind of back and forth and fighting that then leads to a question from Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, who says, is it possible that President Trump could issue preemptive pardons for people who are targeted by the special counsel. And he's, Sessions is like, well, it's very broad authority under pardons. But if that's where we're going, that's really curious. I mean, Sessions is saying, yeah, it's possible. Maybe he'll pardon everybody. I don't know.
So, but you thought that was a tell, that basically, even kind of that line of questioning, that maybe they've heard that, they thought perhaps
oh, yeah, I think that's what they're worried about.
Something that could come to fruition. And,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's what the Democrats are worried about.
Yeah.
All I think is the only thing more boring than this whole meeting is having it rehashed by Juan.
Yeah. But you know what's even worse, Greg? This is what
I thought the Amy Klobuchar reference was fantastic.
But
you were like the Cliff Notes. You said Cliff Notes.
Because a lot of this,
it was like Groundhog Day.
A lot of this happened in June, right?
Yeah.
In front of Senate Intelligence. This is the first time he's before Senate Judiciary.
We were saying, Dana's saying you're a reporter. That's why you do your little TikTok. I like when you do a little TikTok.
Oh, I think the viewers benefit from knowing what happened.
Yeah, and I like his reenactment. And then he goes, oh no, blah, blah, blah. It's like very dramatic.
I have two observations. One, I think that it is possible that the Democrats were going on and on about Russia because they were trying to get President Trump to get mad at Attorney General Sessions again and to spin that back up because they benefit when it looks like the administration is in chaos. And I don't think that necessarily will happen today, but that is possible. I also think the Democrats missed a real opportunity to be able to put a different set of news with the Attorney General on the front burner. One would have been marijuana laws and how he is deciding to prosecute those and dealing with the states that have legalized marijuana and the federal government has it. I mean, there's a lot to be said there. And there's so much that could be asked about on criminal justice reform. When there's bipartisan support in the House and the Senate, there isn't necessarily support by Attorney General Sessions, but there might be with President Trump, and they could have figured out a way to drive a wedge there. But instead, they just did the same hearing that they did 3 months ago.
Yeah, all the Democrats in the Senate watching right now, don't listen to Dana. Keep focusing on Russia. You guys are doing a great job.
Is MSNBC going to cover all this new Russia stuff with Hillary? Do you think they're going to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, to fair and balanced, no, that's us.
All right, well, we're going to cover it. And President Trump's pick for drug czar withdrew from consideration after 60 Minutes exposed his role in fueling the opioid crisis. Now, Tom Marino's coming forward to tell his side of the story. That, plus the NFL's anthem protest announcement, all coming up ahead. Stay with us.
President Trump's drug czar pick is out after damaging reports revealed he and other lawmakers may have hindered the DEA's fight to reduce opioid use. Now, Congressman Tom Marino wants to correct the record. He disputes the reporting that he may have helped fuel the crisis as unfair. He says he's proud of a 2016 drug bill he helped get passed without opposition. President Obama signed it into law. Attorney General Jeff Sessions also addressed the crisis today on Capitol Hill.
We're in the midst of the deadliest drug epidemic this country has ever seen. We've seen nothing like it. Higher availability of drugs, lower prices, increased purity, along with the deadly substance fentanyl, have resulted in climbing death tolls across this country. There can be no doubt, colleagues, we need much stricter accountability in the manufacture and the prescribing and the distribution of addicted opioids.
So 60 Minutes did a really bang-up job with this piece because it actually looks like it might ignite a little change in Washington. Do you agree?
Well, possibly. I mean, I think that it's interesting that Marino is now coming out with a defense when 60 Minutes says they asked for him to respond and that they didn't get anything from him. Now it's Wednesday, so the 60 Minutes piece was previewed on Saturday. It airs on Sunday. Big Washington Post corresponding article on Sunday and Monday. He withdraws his name, and now he wants to defend himself. And there might be more to defend. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just commenting on the communications of it. The president's going to sign the national emergency for the opiate crisis next week. That's what he said earlier this week. And I do think that there's something to be said for this question. Does the country need a drug czar in particular? A lot of people for a long time have said, actually, that's a position that we don't need anymore because it can be handled by the Justice Department. And what the Attorney General was saying today is that there are lots of different laws, but the law is not going to be able to solve all of this.
Right.
And I don't know exactly how the emergency plan is going to work and all the different resources that will be brought to bear. But if you have, for example, 1,000 people a day who are treated in emergency rooms for this problem, it's a huge deal.
It is a huge deal. Gutfeld, a lot of these pharmaceutical companies are now under investigation. Looks like 41 state attorney generals have now issued subpoenas asking for documents. What do you think about these pharmaceutical companies? Are they in trouble?
It's easy to blame them.
Yeah.
And when it's easy to blame somebody, it's not often true. I'm always very suspicious of the whistleblower aspect on 60 Minutes because you always find out later that that whistleblower isn't really a whistleblower. The pharmaceutical companies, the distribution companies, they met with the DEA over time to provide data on rogue doctors and pharmacies. The DEA, as far as I've read up on it, didn't really want to work with them. People want to blame somebody for this because they're either running for office or they're running scared. What company wants their product to kill their consumers?
Yeah.
Logically, they don't. It's the easiest boogeyman to go, and it absolves everybody from a practical solution. The practical solution with these drugs is the product is extremely effective, and it helps millions and millions of people, just the way firearms help millions and millions of people, and just the way automobiles help millions and millions of people. Those three things incur a lot of death. 60,000, 30,000, 40,000. That's a reality. So what you try to do is you try to figure out how do you solve that. You try to look at the people who are driving. You look at the people who are doing drugs. Which people are addicted to it, which people who aren't, how they use it. You don't necessarily have to restrict the drug, but dilute it and then monitor it. That's what's not been happening. The worst thing you can do is draconian measures, because the draconian measures, I don't understand. The draconian measures are going to hurt the people that need these drugs. And so we're going to sit there and have this stupid reaction. We lost the illegal drug war, and now we're going to lose the legal drug war because we're freaking out about something that is going to help millions of people. I don't understand. What was wrong with the bill that Marino offered? What was wrong with that?
I think they said it made it harder to crack down on these gross amounts of shipments to these small towns of these opioids. Because you have a town, population 400, and a mining community that gets sent 1 million pills.
28 million.
Basically removed,
And that just seems like a lot. Kimberly?
well, because it removed like a restriction, so there was no sort of like
couldn't
flow
intercept
meter
it.
to be able to do it. It was just like all go, no.
I don't think it was all go. I think
that was the point of the bill,
Yeah.
whether or not that actually is the truth and the case. But now who knows? What was he told at the time of the 60 Minutes thing? What does he know 3 days later in terms of information that might have come back from as to whoever the whistleblower was or to what transpired for that? So now let's hear his explanation as the story, develops. What I do believe is that Attorney General Jeff Sessions is taking this very seriously. I think the president is as well, as I mentioned yesterday. And he's probably likely to appoint another drug czar. And like I said, Christie was there, and I'm sure he would love the job because he really doesn't have any other, job going right now.
That's right. He's going to be out of office pretty soon.
But not only that, he's very passionate about it.
I don't think I trust him.
No? Okay.
Well, this was his big campaign issue.
President Trump in a unique position because he doesn't really need a lot of donations from the pharmaceutical industry like maybe other politicians would. Do you think he's positioned himself where he could really lead the charge against this?
Well, yeah, ideally he would be the one, because what you see is that a lot of this is in poor rural America that's being devastated by places like Senator Manchin was talking about in West Virginia that just got swamped by this unbelievable number of opioids for a small community. Now, let me just say, I am very curious about this story for a number of reasons. One is, if you're just looking at the surface, guess what? Marino got $100,000 in donations from some of these PACs for the distributors and the chain drugstores. His chief of staff becomes the chief lobbyist for the chain drugstores. A lot of complications. But today, listen to this. All of a sudden, you have Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat of Rhode Island, both saying this story is baloney. Baloney. They say that, in fact, what they're about is making sure that Americans, this fits in with what Greg was saying, have the ability to access drugs they need, especially experimental type drugs. But I don't think there's any getting away from the damage being done by the opioid crisis at this moment, and I don't find it defensible to my mind.
Yeah, but we're taking the easy way out. We always go after the capitalist angle. Oh, it's the pharmacies. Are the distributors supposed to go to Walgreens or doctor's office and ask why they're prescribing more? No one wants to be blamed for this. You're trying to deal with patients who have pain.
Do you think it might be marketing that they say to the doctors, we'll reward you for pushing this on your patients?
Well, I think we can all agree the DEA and the pharmaceutical companies have to be more accountable. We're finally starting to win the war against ISIS because we don't have a president who underestimates the threat. Right back.
As ISIS evaporates, who deserves credit? Well, if you ask Donald Trump, it's Donald Trump.
I totally changed rules of engagement. I totally changed our military. I totally changed the attitudes of the military, and they have done a fantastic job. Yeah, ISIS is now giving up. They're giving up. They're raising their hands. They're walking off. Nobody's ever seen that before.
That is classic Trump. So that's riled up the media who hate his boasting. Thank God no one else ever did that.
Osama bin Laden is dead and General Motors is alive.
Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat and Osama bin Laden is dead. My opponent and his running mate are new to foreign policy. They want to take us back to an era of blustering and blundering that cost America so dearly. After all, you don't call Russia our #1 enemy, not Al-Qaeda, Russia, unless you're still stuck in a Cold War mind warp.
That did not age well. So should you care if Donald Trump blows his own horn? Again, I'll take a win led by a blowhard over a failure led by a thoughtful academic. But for the media, the story is always Trump's words and not his deeds. 2014, it seems long ago, but you must remember that time when ISIS sprang from hell, that first beheading, a Valentine of evil. It's nothing we'd ever seen before. And the hits kept coming. As our commander-in-charm dismissed them, they flourished, even after they'd graduated from JV to varsity. Now they're nearly gone. And only because we returned to a simple truth, annihilation, Trump's analysis. All this matters in another context, North Korea. President Trump is facing the same gripes for his rhetoric towards North Korea, who said yesterday, again, that we're on the brink of nuclear war. It's been only Trump who's gotten China's attention on this. It's been only Trump who's drawn a red line that few doubt. And so, as with ISIS, it's only Trump who has any hope of success here. Because negotiation without leverage isn't negotiation, it's blather. Blather got us ISIS. It got us the Iranian nuke deal. Blather got us a nuclear North Korea. There are some problems impervious to blather. So let the media blather on. This is a street fight on Planet Earth Avenue. Now ask yourself, who would you rather square off against? A president who promised to annihilate ISIS and does it, or the professional blatherers appalled when our president actually wins one? How can you deny the differences in approach, Dana?
Well, you really can't. Although I think that there are probably some Obama administration people would say, well, we actually put this in motion in October of 2016, and therefore we actually deserve the credit. That's what they say about the economy as well. The thing is that President Trump is doing is that he is using the threat or the actual action of military force in order to make diplomacy more effective. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And so it makes some people feel uncomfortable, I guess, and whether in the media or elsewhere. I do think that this is a moment to celebrate, but there's not much time to celebrate.
Yeah.
Because behind this is the vacuum. So we know one of the things that brought people together to fight ISIS was the fact that we had all these different coalitions working together. Now they're all in the region still, and they're starting to turn on each other.
Yeah.
So what is our diplomatic goal from there after this military threat worked?
Kimberly, terrorists are like the devil's Doritos. We just keep eating them, but he'll always make more.
Oh, my goodness. Don't give Doritos a bad name. So tasty.
Food court.
Food court. I feel a food court coming on.
Devil's Doritos.
Exactly. So I think that this is, we talked about this, yesterday as well. But the bottom line is President Trump does deserve credit for his accomplishments in terms of really responding and listening to the military, listening to the people who are in the field, who are on the ground, and actually putting in play and in motion, giving them the ability to run their play, which is this is how we want to defeat them. This is what's needed. We need to return the rules of engagement to what they were before. and we need to be strategic in how we approach this and not just use, flowing rhetoric, actually get it done. Do you recall, Greg, that people were criticizing President Trump and saying, well, where's his plan? Where's the specifics?
Right.
How is he going to get this done? He's saying he's going to crush them, but guess what? In fact, he has. So the actions, and instead of telegraphing exactly what you're going to do and putting it in place, has proved to be much more beneficial and effective.
The other thing, Jesse, is the way he talked about it. Remember when he talked about the wall, that had an effect on the mules business. I think they were called mules. They stopped coming from Central America. Coyotes or mules? Mules are drugs. Coyotes are people.
Coyotes riding mules.
Well, yes. So it diminished that kind of traffic. In a way, his language had an effect on ISIS before perhaps the bombs did.
Perhaps it did. I don't mind when politicians take credit for success. It's when they point fingers when there's failure.
Yeah.
But everybody does that. Trump's been saying the stock market record highs. It's all his responsibility. When that thing crashes, I'm sure he's going to be pointing fingers.
It's already McConnell's fault.
Yeah, right. And then you have Obama. I killed bin Laden, but then ISIS crept up, and it's the CIA's fault because they missed that. It's fine. He ran on knocking the hell out of ISIS, so I don't mind if he thumps his chest a little bit. He can accomplish a lot when Congress is not involved. Imagine if Congress were involved in the fight against ISIS, they'd probably be in control of the entire Middle East. Well, I don't like the hypocrisy about the media. When Obama came out and said, you know what, we don't have a strategy, and they're JV. The media said, oh, you know what, the rise of ISIS, that's Bush's fault. And then when he took a really weak approach to this air war and there was a stalemate, the media said, you know what? Great job, President Obama. We're not in a quagmire. Then he sends boots on the ground. Media's silent. So Trump comes up, says he's going to wipe them off the face of the earth. Media calls him naive and a warmonger. Then Trump actually wipes them off the face of Iraq, and the media hasn't said anything.
Juan, I saw you nodding in agreement with everything Jesse said.
Well, there were some things I did agree with, but I must say the part that I disagree with all of you about is that he's doing something different, because essentially what he did was continue Obama's strategy.
Yeah.
And in fact,
What was the
let me
strategy,
just
Juan?
point out that when Obama said we're going to go into Mosul, we're going to put more people in there to support, the special Kurdish forces or whatever, they're in there. Guess who opposed it? Donald Trump. That's a fact. So, I'm just like, so he comes in and he says, I've got a secret plan. I got a secret plan. I'm going to get rid of ISIS, these campaigns. I got a secret plan. No secret plan. Instead,
That was his plan.
Oh, his secret plan
No,
was
you gotta keep
following
it secret.
Obama. I see.
That
I
was the
see.
point.
We got to move on, Juan.
He said, you know what? The problem
Wait,
now is,
it's Bush's fault ISIS
No.
took over a third of Iraq, but
That's
then
a
it's
different fight.
Obama's strategy that defeated them under
No,
Trump?
what I'm
You were
saying,
following.
if
You were following.
let me just say, Obama had a strategy. Trump continued it. I think that where credit is due to President Trump is that President Trump was willing to go in, not with additional forces so much as additional firepower from above that wiped out these places. Sponsored a lot of the immigration flight that we're now concerned about.
On the ground, too, in
But,
Kurds.
I think we can all celebrate anytime ISIS or terrorists are defeated.
Yeah, and I will not celebrate till the entire idea is gone.
Okay,
Right.
agreed.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, I know him. He's married to somebody that used to work here.
Yes, indeed.
Has a message for the league's players, but will the kneelers follow suit? His words next.
After a second day of meetings with team owners and players hoping to make progress in the anthem controversy, the NFL commissioner had this to say about how teams should approach the national anthem before games.
We believe that our players should stand for the national anthem. I understand where our fans feel about this issue, and we feel the same way about the importance of our flag, about the importance of patriotism, and I believe our players feel that way.
Did you come out of the meetings with the owners with an understanding that teams that have indicated they would discipline their own players for not standing will not discipline them?
No, we didn't discuss that. It wasn't necessary.
When asked if he spoke to President Trump, he said this.
What we're trying to do is stay out of politics.
Have you at all communicated with President Trump? Do you have any plans to communicate with President Trump?
I have not.
The president shared his thoughts today, too. NFL, too much talk, not enough action, stand for the national anthem. So, Kimberly, I'm watching this press conference today, and I'm thinking that there's nothing new from the NFL.
Right. You know what I think, Dana?
I think
hearing. That President Trump, after he's done being president, is going to be commissioner of the NFL. I mean, could you imagine?
Right.
Yeah, interesting. But look, so they tried to massage this a little bit with the public perception to show, like, okay, we're doing something. We're having meetings about meetings to try to work this out. Basically, they're going to have to, like, run out the clock on this, which is try to find a way to get out through the rest of this, season, people not airing the anthem, so then it takes away the whole, mystery of it. I don't know. They could offer to them to maybe kneel during the coin toss. They want to do that.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I mean, I don't know. Pick another spot and try to move it along.
Juan, what do you think?
I was impressed by Goodell. I thought that he said something very important. He said, he wanted to communicate to the players that the NFL and the advertisers really care about what they're talking about, which is social injustice and the relationships between police and the black community. And he said they're going to do something about it, and basically, put himself in a position where he said, the NFL is not here, he said, to get involved with politics. Now, Donald Trump continues to use this to divide the country. He's tweeted today that it was an act of total disrespect for our great country for Goodell not to impose punishment on players who continue to kneel.
Jesse, your thoughts?
Well, I think the kneelers have divided the country, Juan. And I think the country supports the president on this issue.
Nope.
The NFL is like the UN. They have a lot of meetings, but nothing ever gets accomplished. I'm afraid to criticize Goodell too much because he seems a little vengeful, and I want to still go to the Super Bowl party in New York. But I will have to say he has botched this. They should have come down on Kaepernick last year from the jump. It would have solved all these problems. Everything this guy touches has not turned out well. The Ray Rice beating in the elevator situation, Deflategate, the Ezekiel Elliott suspension. What's going on with that? Touchdown celebrations in the end zone. I mean, everything this guy, the concussions.
Those are tame. I gotta say, touchdown dancing in the end zone seems pretty tame.
I mean, let him dance. I don't even know what a catch is in the NFL.
Where do you come down?
Well, before Greg jumps in, can I just quickly say something?
I have to get out in 30 seconds,
Okay,
so let's
go right
give Greg
ahead.
the rest of the time.
The protest is only catching on with people who are scared of dismissing it. They're afraid of being seen as racist or whatever,
right,
or insensitive to social injustice. Tell me the difference between social injustice and injustice. You can't. All right. I listened to the legend, the Professor Walter Williams. Juan, you know him well. He says you got to focus on reality, not showboating. There's a great figure. Less than 13% of homicides in Chicago are cleared. That means those are the only ones that are solved. The other ones go unsolved. That's what you should be focusing on. That's what the players should be focused on. 25% of all homicides occur in Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Players should focus on that. That's predominantly minority. So you got to think about this. This is all about symbolic gestures. It's not about anything in reality. It's not about head injuries. It's not about murder. It's not about corruption. It's not about steroids. It's about adults turning themselves into children, and they're worried about belonging or upsetting their peers. Identity politics, wherever it infects, it rots. And that's what you're seeing. And you're going to see this wherever it happens. It's going to rot from the core inside.
And the best symbolic gesture is standing for the national anthem. We got to run, Juan, but we'll surely talk about this again tomorrow.
No, we won't.
Students walk out in protest after a teacher tells her class to speak American. Was she right to do so? We debate next.
A student body at Cliffside Park High School in Bergen County, New Jersey, has orchestrated a walkout over comments made by a teacher demanding kids in her class, quote, speak American, end quote.
Military men and women fighting are not fighting for your right to speak Spanish, they're fighting for your right to speak American. You want to leave? Be disrespectful? Leave? Disrespectful?
Teenagers from the school waved flags from Puerto Rico, Brazil, the Dominican Republic on the steps of the high school in protest. Kimberly, what do you think?
You feel like there's more and more of these stories every day. And the thing is, now everybody's become a kind of a reporter with a phone, and students are reporting on teachers, teachers reporting on students, faculty, et cetera. And I find that, we find one of these stories every day. And then the point is to try and dig behind it and find out, exactly what happened. I believe it's speak English, but nevertheless, I'm sure she regrets the choice of words.
Oh, you think she regrets it?
I think so. Look what happened now.
Okay.
I don't think she is happy with the outcome. Do you?
I don't know, because the school board says they're meeting on this, but they won't tell us what they're deciding. I read an editorial from a Bergen County paper that said she was wrong, but she should not be fired. You know, she just overreacted.
Well, I'm saying she probably doesn't want the controversy. I'm quite certain.
Right. So over half of the students in this school are, in fact, people who speak Spanish at home, Jesse. They said they were discussing a baseball game. What do you think?
Well, I think the teacher might need to go back to school to learn how to speak English, because I don't know what speak American means. She's obviously not that qualified, but it is a New Jersey public school, and she's a sub apparently, so, you know, maybe she needs to go back and brush up on her English. I don't mind if students, if they're from a Hispanic background, speak Spanish. You know, if they're having a conversation about a baseball game, who cares? It just sounds like gossip. Maybe they shouldn't be speaking during the teacher's lecture or during the lesson.
Yeah.
But if they're just having a side comment in Spanish, their native language, or if they're bilingual, I mean, being bilingual is good. So it doesn't matter to me. I think they're taking it a little too far with the walkouts and the flags. Let's be honest, this isn't like, you know, the civil rights issue of their time. But yeah, I think they're maybe looking for an excuse to get out of the next class. But I think the students are right. They shouldn't be criticized for that.
So, Dana, I remember when President Trump said to Jeb Bush, he should speak English in this country, be respectful. I mean, is this along the same lines?
Well, this is an issue that goes way back. I mean, like, I remember this was like one of the debate topics when I was in high school.
Right.
So this is not new. I do think that school boards and principals should stand behind their teachers. And if they have a problem with it, then people could have a conversation. And I also don't think that the students should be encouraged to walk out if they disagree with something. We have that conversation all the time. Sit down and argue about it. And do it respectfully, and actually you'll succeed.
Hey, Greg, by the way, one of the students said as he was walking out, "You're being racist. I know how to speak English."
I think they were speaking in Spanish. They were whispering Spanish during class. 3 things wrong with this. Number 1, I don't care who's right or wrong. If you walk out of class, you should be suspended. That's an excuse. That's just an excuse to skip class. Number 2, when a principal asks an assembly or gets an assembly and asks students what he should do, he's a pathetic principal. You don't ask students what to do. You're the damn principal. 3, we should have an American language. It should be based on the Trump vocabulary and Merle Haggard lyrics. And everybody should know it, because you know what? People love our culture. Let's decide right now to have an American language. It'll unite all of us. Esperanto was the Earth language. Let's have an American language. Come on, everybody.
How fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's right. What a bunch of babies. Bunch of babies.
Well, I think Canada would like to have an official language. One more thing up next.
True.
It's time now for one more thing. And yesterday was fantastic, as Brian Kilmeade had his wonderful book party.
Ew.
He's a New York Times bestselling author, and his latest book, Andrew Jackson and the Miracle of New Orleans, a battle that shaped America's destiny. And that is coming out officially at bookstores on October 24th. So be sure to look for that. It's getting rave reviews. And we all kind of like sauntered over there yesterday. You see that Kennedy took that snapshot. And so it was a lot of fun. And there's a picture here. He was getting support from all the colleagues, and Kilmeade and Hannity together, and Kilmeade and Ainsley, who had her own event at book review last night. It was a lot of fun. We're very happy and proud of him.
Very nice.
Yay.
You, Greg.
All right.
I hate these people.
You know, I hate it's the people that write up the instructions for medical devices. I've been sick for 3 or 4 days. So I got this thing. It's Advair. I don't know if you can look at that. And I've been using it for 3 days. You press this thing like that, and then you put it to your mouth. But I've been doing it for 3 days, and nothing's happening. And I realized that I've been not putting it over the mouth hole. I've been sucking in at the handle for the last 3 days. I'm doing this. And I'm getting nothing, but I was supposed to do it over here. So for 3 days, I've been not taking my medicine, and I've been getting sicker and sicker because you can't do good instructions. You could have just pointed at this thing and said, put your mouth there, you moron.
Well, this is what happened with the Imodium pills, because you couldn't even manage to get them out of the plastic.
I know.
So,
I hate these people.
There you go. Dana.
So just when you think your boss has really stepped it up, you got a new coffee pot or something, Microsoft will outdo you every time. Check this out. They've got new tree houses where you can have meetings and stuff. There's charred walls. They're 13 feet off the ground. They've got soaring ceilings, round skylights.
That's so insulting to the trees. Hey, we got your dead friends here.
Wow, I don't believe that was
We believe that.
One more
That
thing.
doesn't look like our third floor.
Building a tree house in a tree says, here are the corpses of your friends.
Oh my God.
May you
so
forever
weird.
have to look upon them.
Yes.
All right, take another hit of that medicine, why don't you? All right, Jesse.
All right, a Florida woman found an excellent activity to do with her pet chicken. What the cluck? She is paddleboarding with her pet chicken, Loretta, and they are doing it in the Florida Keys. It's relaxing, and I don't have a problem with it.
You know
I
what's
think
funny?
it's beautiful.
And he said, I don't know if I can pull this off. There you go.
There
Juan.
you go.
All right, so firefighters are trying to gain control of those California wildfires. They continue to blaze through Northern California, but over 200,000 acres have been burned, 100,000 people fleeing. And in this picture, you can see a woman, Lauren Massaro, and her, yes, that's her pony in the back seat.
Whoa.
Stardust is now safe and waiting out the fire at nearby ranch. Boy, but she said, you know what? That car will never smell the same again.
All right, well, set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five. Special Report is up next.
President Trump sends mixed